They said it again and again in closed NATO briefings and open defense forums, that this aircraft was overrated, too small, too light, not stealthy enough. On paper, it didn't look like a monster. Compared to billion-dollar jets, it looked almost modest. Many pilots arriving for joint exercises carried that same quiet skepticism with them. They expected a decent regional fighter, nothing more. What happened next changed minds fast. During multinational drills involving zero air forces, the assumptions began to crack. The first surprise came before the jets even took off. While other aircraft needed long preparation windows, heavy ground crews, and pristine runways, this fighter was ready in minutes. Pilots watched it operate from short, rough stretches of road, refuel, rearm, and launch again. No hangars, no luxury infrastructure, just efficiency. For seasoned aviators used to complex logistics chains, that alone was unsettling. In the air, the second shock hit harder. Pilots who expected an easy engagement suddenly found themselves struggling to get a clean lock. The jet wasn't trying to overpower anyone with brute force. It didn't need to. Its sensors were fused in a way that gave the pilot a frighteningly clear picture of the battle space. Situational awareness wasn't a buzzword here. It was a weapon. Enemy positions, missile threats, friendly assets. Everything appeared seamlessly. Many pilots later admitted they felt like they were late to the fight, even when they technically arrived first. Then came the dogfight phase. This is where reputations are made or destroyed. In close combat scenarios, the jet's agility rewrote expectations. High alpha maneuvers, rapid energy recovery, and brutal turn rates caught opponents off guard. Pilots flying heavier aircraft realized they were bleeding speed while their opponents stayed nimble and controlled. More than a few debriefings ended in uncomfortable silence, followed by one honest sentence: "We underestimated it." Electronic warfare drills sealed the lesson. In simulated contested environments, systems that pilots trusted for years suddenly became unreliable. Radar warnings flickered, locks were broken, data links were disrupted. The jet wasn't just surviving, it was shaping the fight. Veteran pilots later described it as fighting an aircraft that thought faster than you. Not because it was autonomous, but because the pilot-machine interface removed friction. Decisions that took seconds in other cockpits took fractions of a second here. Perhaps the most humbling moment came during turnaround cycles. While other jets returned to base, requiring hours before re-entering the fight, this aircraft was back in the air astonishingly fast. In a real conflict, pilots realized that difference could decide everything. Air superiority isn't just about winning one fight. It's about being present again and again while the enemy is still catching their breath. By the end of the exercises, the tone had completely shifted. The jokes stopped. The dismissive comments vanished. Pilots who once shrugged now leaned forward during briefings. Some quietly asked uncomfortable questions. Why does this cost so much less? Why does it need fewer people? Why does it keep showing up where we don't expect it? The truth settled in slowly but firmly. This aircraft was never designed to impress on spec sheets or airshow posters. It was built to fight, survive, and return, repeatedly, in the worst conditions imaginable. The pilots learned what marketing brochures never show. Effectiveness doesn't always look intimidating. Sometimes it looks underestimated. They said it was overrated. After flying against it, many pilots stopped saying anything at all. In the skies where reputations are tested, silence often means respect. The debrief room told the real story. No cameras, no headlines, just pilots, instructors, and tacticians quietly replaying what had happened in the air. At first, there were excuses. Bad setup. Unlucky scenario. Rules of engagement favored them. But as sortie after sortie was reviewed, a pattern emerged that was impossible to ignore. This aircraft kept dictating the pace of the fight, and pilots from multiple zero air forces began to realize the problem wasn't the scenario, it was their assumptions. One senior pilot admitted something unusual. He said the jet felt like it was always one step ahead, even when technically disadvantaged. Not faster in a straight line, Not heavier in weapons, just smarter in how it entered, fought, and exited combat. The aircraft forced opponents to react, and reacting in air combat is already losing. Every move they made seemed anticipated, countered, and punished. As exercises intensified, scenarios became harsher. Limited fuel, damaged runways, disrupted command networks. This was where many advanced aircraft were expected to shine. Instead, cracks appeared. Systems that relied on constant support began to struggle. Meanwhile, this jet adapted. It didn't depend on perfection. It was designed for chaos. Pilots watched it disperse to hidden road bases, operate under minimal guidance, and still rejoin the fight seamlessly. That flexibility unnerved planners more than raw performance ever could. The cockpit philosophy became a major talking point. Pilots noted how little mental energy was wasted managing systems. Instead of fighting the aircraft, they were fighting the enemy. Displays were intuitive. Controls were logical. Warnings were meaningful, not overwhelming. In high-stress simulations, this mattered more than speed or altitude. Several pilots admitted they felt less fatigued after intense sorties, a detail that raised eyebrows among medical officers and commanders alike. Then came the what-if discussions. What if this wasn't an exercise? What if bases were hit on day one? What if supply lines were disrupted? What if pilots had to fly multiple combat missions per day for weeks? Suddenly, the jet everyone once mocked started to look terrifyingly practical, not glamorous. Practical. And in war, practicality wins far more often than prestige. Intelligence officers began paying closer attention. Analysts noticed how quickly lessons from one sortie appeared in the next. Tactics evolved. Engagement styles changed. Mistakes disappeared. This wasn't improvisation. It was design. The aircraft had been built from the ground up to learn, adapt, and integrate with allies while still remaining lethal on its own. Pilots weren't just flying it, they were partnering with it. By the final days of the exercises, respect had replaced arrogance. Pilots who once dismissed it now defended it in discussions. Some even joked that the jet didn't look dangerous enough, which was exactly the point. Underestimation had become one of its greatest weapons. Enemies would see it coming and still fail to understand what it could do until it was too late. The lesson was clear and quietly unsettling. The most dangerous aircraft isn't always the one that dominates headlines or drains budgets. Sometimes it's the one designed for survival, repetition, and relentless pressure. The pilots learned the truth the hard way. Not through rumors or reports, but through lost engagements, broken locks, and battles they never quite controlled. They once called it overrated. After facing it repeatedly, many pilots stopped comparing it to others at all. They simply acknowledged what it was: a fighter built for the kind of war most hope never comes, and fearfully effective if it does. What finally broke the illusion wasn't a single dramatic dogfight or one humiliating defeat. It was repetition, over and over again, across different scenarios, weather conditions, and mission types. The same result kept appearing. The aircraft everyone had labeled overrated kept surviving, adapting, and quietly winning. By the third week of intensive exercises involving zero air forces, even the most stubborn skeptics were running out of excuses. Strike missions were supposed to expose its limits: deep penetration, heavy air defenses, time on target pressure. On paper, this was where larger, stealth-focused platforms should dominate. Instead, pilots watched something unsettling happen. The jet slipped into contested airspace using timing, terrain, and electronic disruption rather than brute invisibility. It didn't rely on being unseen forever. It relied on being unpredictable. Enemy radars lit up, went quiet, shifted frequencies, and then lit up again too late. Simulated targets were hit, and the aircraft was already gone, repositioning for its next task. Escort missions told a similar story. While protecting high-value assets, the jet didn't just react to threats, it shaped them. Pilots flying alongside it noticed how enemy aircraft were forced into awkward approaches, pushed away from optimal angles, or drawn into traps they didn't realize were traps until the debrief. The aircraft acted less like a lone fighter and more like a battlefield conductor, subtly influencing how the entire engagement unfolded. Then came the attrition scenarios. These were designed to test endurance rather than brilliance. Limited spares, exhausted crews, continuous operations. This is where many advanced aircraft begin to suffer, not because they are weak, but because they are demanding. Maintenance hours pile up. Small issues ground jets. Availability drops. In contrast, this aircraft kept appearing on the flight board. Again and again and again. Pilots joked darkly that it was always there, no matter how chaotic the situation became. Ground crews became part of the legend. Small teams, working fast, often under simulated threat, turned the jet around in conditions others would consider unacceptable. No climate-controlled shelters, no massive support convoys, just training, design, and discipline. Pilots realized something crucial. Air power doesn't belong only to the aircraft in the sky. It belongs to the system that keeps it flying when everything else is breaking down. As night operations intensified, another truth emerged. In darkness, confusion is the real enemy. Here, the cockpit design showed its philosophy. Pilots reported feeling unusually confident at night, even in complex airspace. Information was clear. Priorities were obvious. Threats stood out instead of blending into noise. While others struggled with sensory overload, this aircraft reduced chaos into something manageable. That reduction saved seconds. Those seconds decided outcomes. The most uncomfortable discussions happened late, after official debriefs ended. Quiet conversations between pilots from different nations. They spoke honestly then, about what they feared, about what surprised them, about how this aircraft didn't feel like it was trying to win every fight spectacularly. It felt like it was trying to outlast everyone else. One pilot summed it up bluntly. "I wouldn't want to face it on day 20 of a war." Strategists listening to these conversations began rethinking old assumptions. What if future conflicts aren't decided in the first shock and awe week? What if air forces have to operate under constant pressure, degraded infrastructure, and political limits? In that kind of war, the most advanced aircraft on paper might not be the most dangerous. The most dangerous would be the one that keeps flying when others can't. By the final phase of the exercises, respect had turned into something deeper: caution. The aircraft was no longer discussed as a curiosity or a budget alternative. It was discussed as a problem. A difficult one, not because it was unbeatable, but because it refused to play by expectations. It didn't need perfect conditions. It didn't need dominance. It needed opportunity, and it created those opportunities relentlessly. When the exercises ended, pilots returned home carrying more than flight hours. They carried a lesson learned the hard way. Power isn't always loud, superiority isn't always obvious, and danger doesn't always announce itself with size, cost, or hype. Sometimes danger arrives quietly, adapts quickly, and stays longer than anyone planned. They once laughed when it was mentioned. They stopped laughing after flying against it. And in the unforgiving world of air combat, that shift from dismissal to silence speaks louder than any praise ever could.